Hi guys, welcome to my vlog. For today's video, I will sharing my preliminary reflection about Torintira and Philippine Story Source book. Don't forget you updated my latest pick is an introduction to Philippine historiography, sources and discourses. What is the important about the story? These are many questions about the story. But if they did that, we are probably going to be more educated when it comes to history, especially Philippine history, social studies. I feel proud get interesting when we into fourth year, where about we studied about economics and stuff. The story subject it gives a knowledge. Since then, I remember the first meet with our new history professor, and he said something like we make a reflection about the subject. And when Dr. Jose Rizal said that he does not know to how to look back at where he came from, will never get to his destination, to it's important to know about the story. The history there are other contending issues in the Philippine history, such as the venue of the first Christian mass in the country, and question of who deserved to be named a national hero. History and history sought to analyze society by searching out people's voice from colonial. A college textbooks that offered a more critical reading of Philippine history. Knowing the story, it gives a knowledge to all students. Young people that Dr. Sirizal said, the youth is the hope of our future someday. The geography that's a lot of topic to be discussed. One significant lesson that I had learned would probably be the past is never dead and gone. I also learned that with the story is that you can use it as a guide so that you will not make the same mistake twice. I conclude that Philippine history is difficult, but nothing is difficult if you're hard work enough. The second topic is all about the history of the Philippine island. I started this lesson to write a reflection history of the Philippine island. I feel because it gives a knowledge to new generation among people who study the history. These are three conditions of person among natives of this island, and into which their government is divided, the chiefs whom we have already treated, and the tinaguas who are equivalent to plebeians and slaves of those both chiefs and tinaguas. Some provinces have different customs than others, some respects. However, they agreed in most. And all island, generally the same usages were followed. Are others who live by their own houses with their families outside the house of their lord. This it happens. This if they had more than child, those who descend from this if children of a free mother or father. We only one-fourth slaves because being children of free or father. In the same way, it may happen division between heirs that slave fail to several and serve each one for time is due him. The story is most certain knowledge is that the most powerful meet the other slaves and seize them for slight cause or occasion, and many times for loans and usurious contracts which were current among them. This was the case either without a will. In the act drawing a will, there was no further ceremony than to have written it or to have stated it orally before acquaintances. The story of the Philippine island is any native slave woman concubines of any of them, and such slave woman had children. Those children were free. We believe that by so doing this semester, that is all about the Manonggol jar. The Manonggol jar, it is the one of the numerous jars found in a cave believed to a burial site. Manunggul part of the archaeologically significant Tabon Cave Complex in Limpon Point, Quezon, Palawan. In March 1964, by Victor Dicalan, Hans Kanstein and several voluntary workers from the United States Corps. This Manunggul jar is unique in all respects. The burial jar with a cover featuring a shape of the dead is perhaps unrivaled in South Asia. The work of an artist and master potter. And I saw the artistry of the early Filipinos reflected in those fine lines and intricate designs. And we considered marvelous technological advances by our neighbors that they repeated us and made us partners. And treat these neighbors, including the Imperial Chinese. The story of Island in 1890s, the Katipunan movement of Andres Bonifacio, which spearheaded the Philippine Revolution, also tried to revive that values of magandang kalooban. And during the People Power uprising of 1986, we showed the world valves of faith, friendship, compassion, cheerfulness, heroism, peacefulness, and creativity, which are deep. The fourth topic is all about the Laguna Copper Plate. The story it gives a knowledge. The history of the plate was found 1899 by a laborer near the mouth of the Lumbang River in the Wawa, Alumban, Laguna in the Philippines. And I also learned about the copper plate is written in Old Malay using the Kawi script with Sanskrit and Old Javanese influences. After its discovery, its text was first translated in 1991 by Anton Postma, a Dutch anthropologist and Hanuno'o script researcher. The Laguna copper plate inscription is unofficial. Modern country of the Philippines is now situated. This lack of information led many scholars to believe that it was isolated from the rest region. The situation in this part of South Asia. Then I was during 10th century AD. During the 10th, a number of political entities were in existence in South Asia. One of the most famous of these was the Khmer Empire. The fifth topic is all about duties of the Katipunan of the sons of the people. The duties of the Katipunan is an although during Bonifacio's lifetime that is today is well known to the sons of Katipunan. And also I have learned about the duties of Katipunan when Bonifacio sets out the duties of KKK. Members obviously derives from Old Testament, and these are give knowledge to young people. The son of the people is what to give a mission and knowledge to all students, and also give the charity and love for one's fellow. It gives a reason and calm to people who deserve these duties of the Katipunan. The story to all people who willing to study the story about the Bonifacio is what you read is what you learn about the story. Because the story, if you get to learn this story, you can go to read, you can get to knowledge to yourself. The sixth topic is all about pre-16th century. The Philippines was recovered and discoveries of Calao Cave also raised some of other important and cultural behavior of these early colonizers. Philippine archipelago, even though there is evidence of battery in the animal bones that use of Philippine archipelago. The initial finds in Calo Cave in Pampanga. This currently acknowledged as a species of Yumo and thus establishing the Philippines as a part of archaeological problems in the field of Philippine prehistory. That's why important to do is describing the story. Century particular the reading and discussion of archaeological and studies because it serves as an important of tool and important to use the understanding history of other periods of transformation. In the Philippines, the early trading are ancient Filipinos and their connections to the known world that time. As what learned through the lesson that myths and legends are useful. In understanding somehow the unity, as well as the prehistory example of periodization and astronation. The pre-16th century has become a model of historical and historiographical criticism in the Philippine historical studies, the rate of which the early astronation colonization occurred must surely be one of the most rapid on record from the prehistoric. Agricultural and also archaeological evidence and ethnographic accounts by Spanish missionaries plays in role Philippines for us students. The influence Spanish prior because of the happening in this day. One of the most important which occurred must is prehistory, agriculture and agricultural archaeological evidence by Spanish. Topic 7 is all about customs of the Tagalog. The book, the Book of the Juan Plasencia, was a Spanish friar, the Franciscan order. He was among the first group of Franciscan missionaries who arrived in the Philippines on July 2, 1578. He was tasked by the king of Spain to document the custom traditions the colonized natives. He spent most of several religious and linguistic books, most notably to Doctrina Christiana, the first book ever printed in the Philippines. Customs of the Tagalogs, as part longer monographs written by the chroniclers of the Spanish expeditions to the Philippines during the early 16th and 17th century. The custom of Tagalog mainly focuses on the government, administration of justice, slaves, inheritance, and dowries. Juan de Plasencia mentioned his account in that every barangay, a tribal gathering consists of 30 to 100 families together with their slaves and have their own dato. Plasencia described how children who were divided between the married Maharlika and slave namamahay sa gigid. Plasencia also noted the dowry system that was practiced by the native Tagalogs. Dowries were given the men to the woman's parents before marriage. He also mentioned the Filipinos worship idols, and one of them is what they call Bathala, which signifies all powerful or maker of all things. The other ship, Mon even the stars, commented the Filipinos as very liable to feign auguries and things they witness and also practice divination. In addition, the manner of burying also differs based on the status of disease, is what Plasencia described. It is undeniable that our customs and practices change a long time. However, there are still fragments of our past that remain and will continue to remind us of our origin. It is such an honor knowing about our story and being able. The topic is all about 19th century Philippines. The 19th century was called the Age of Enlightenment, but for the Filipinos, it is one of the darkest part of our past. Spaniards ruled in the Philippines and oppressed Filipinos for a long time. When we've been under extreme privation and sufferings. This there's injustice, social and racial discrimination, abusive economic system, cruel way of church, and government corruption. We can't even fight for our right, cause we have no room and court. Can't even vocalize opinions, cause we will be punished when we talk. They see Filipinos, especially those who were in the bottom of their so-called social hierarchy, slaves, and tells no rights to own land, no rights to speak, and rights for education. Large amount of taxes are being collected and performs promise to the Filipino people isn't met. The past we shouldn't bury and forget because although it's painful to recall these times, it is also part of the story that remind us how Rizal, other propagandists and heroes both hard to get back our freedom, to get back our rights as Filipino people, to get back our peace, and to get land that is rightfully ours. That is the time where a true sense of nationalism arise. The 19th century is the time that Rizal showed us that knowledge and mind is a one great weapon. If properly used, the pain is really mightier than sword in the world. Lesson 9 is all about 1896 Philippine Revolution. One of the most significant events in the Philippine history is the 1896 Philippine Revolution, inspiring generations of Filipinos to embrace a proud of nationalism. During a time of great hardship and war, Filipinos from all walks of life came together for a common cause. From the beginning of our story, Filipinos have wanted to oppose colonization, to be able to stand our own territory, to fight for our identity and independence to the point that even our ancestors would devote their young life for it. And 1896, the Katipunan, under the guidance of Andres Bonifacio, alleged the revolution against Spain with the goal of gaining independence. As Filipino, we are naturally secretive to the point that the anti-colonial secret organization known as Katipunan was created to oppose Spanish domination in our country. Just like in the past, Filipinos doesn't wanted to be ruled by Spaniards. If I were them, I would likewise to wanted to be free and make my own decision life. This constitution brought such good things help us to improve our culture and our. The last topic of prelim is all about historical thinking. Using historical thinking is develop their ability to construct and defend arguments based on primary materials as well as comprehend and question interpretation found in secondary sources. Historical thinking is a tool for helping students at practically any level learn how to formulate and support arguments. Based on primary sources, historical thinking skills are useful because they allow historians and researchers to develop unique a particular culture. I think we have all historical thinking. Historian thinking is a set of critical literacy skills for evaluating and analyzing primary sources, documents, construct a meaningful of the past because it requires the use of critical thinking abilities to analyze material. From the past, historical thinking is crucial study because our world is made by history and because knowledge of the past offers new perspective about the present. Studying history, it gives a deeper insight into our lives or others. Historical thinking must be distinguished from history otherwise. Historical thinking would include all historiography and it would be difficult to define as a distinct concept. Therefore, historical thinking only becomes important and valuable when one is seeking it to construct pupils on how to do history. Historical thinking is very useful, especially to us. As a student, I want to help us to give more knowledge to the others.